Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. I know, I took another week off, or 2 weeks off, whatever. I've just been busy. And, this is like a side thing. So, bear with me. You'll get new episodes when I feel like making new episodes, when I feel like I have stuff to talk about. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about this week. I put this show off until Monday morning. I'm doing this Monday morning before work. Again, procrastinating. The weather was nice this weekend, fairly nice this weekend. I have a coin in my hand. It's a gold coin. It's a $1 coin. It features the first woman put on American currency. Ha! See, and you thought Harriet Tubman. You thought I was going to talk about Harriet Tubman. Nope. This is a Sacagawea coin. It's a $1 coin. And Sacagawea was a Native American. And I used to know her story, but there's so much stuff that I have to try and keep in this little tiny head that I've got that she was instrumental in leading colonists somewhere or helping something. But anyway, Native American woman on an American coin. And then I threw it out to you guys in the audience. So, the government is apparently planning on replacing Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill with Harriet Tubman. I don't know why. Are we still guilty about slavery? Are we still guilty about not treating women right until basically the middle of the 20th century, or the end of the first quarter of the 20th century? What is it? Did we finally get tired of putting presidents on our money? I'm not against this by any means, but here's what I'm against. It costs money to retool all the printing presses and everything to make new money. It probably costs more money than the money's worth. Again, we have the elderly living on piss-poor Social Security payments. We have failing bridges and infrastructure everywhere in the United States. But hey, a good thing to spend our money on is putting somebody different on our money. It's stupid. The last time that we had money redesigned was the $100 bill, and I believe the $10 bill just got a facelift. Both of those redesigns were to add security features to these bills so they could not be counterfeited. There you go. If that's what you're going to prevent, then that's what you're going to prevent. But just to replace a face, you can tape any face you want on money. Hell, I've been to Graceland. I bought dollar bills with Elvis's face on them. Yes. Maybe our money should have no faces on them. Or maybe our money should have the faces of working people. Maybe they should put prints on some money. Yeah, I know. Prince just died. Probably a little early for Prince jokes, but that's another thing that bothered me last week. Was the whole huge deal that everybody made about one guy dying. At the same time that Prince died, soldiers died, firefighters died, police officers died, white people died, black people died, Chinese people died, Japanese people died, babies died. And not a mention of them. Yeah, Prince was a famous dude. He was, I don't know, he was a musician. And while I think that music leads to great social change, musicians shouldn't be like idolized like that. They're just dudes. And most of the time, these musicians that we look up and want our kids to be just like, or, you know, strive to be like that, Ooh, I wish I was Prince. You don't see the backstories. You know, the fact that, hey, maybe Prince was a junkie. I heard a story that he was given what they call a safe shot 2 days before his death. So you know what a safe shot is? When I hear safe shot, I think Narcan. Prince was not unlike any of the other musicians. Back in the late 70s, the early 80s, the early 90s, these guys were still doing drugs and partying and living this outrageous lifestyle. Again, choices, personal choices. You can live however you want to live. But in the end, I think probably the simplest living people make out the best. Yeah, that's what I think. What else was I going to talk about today? Got the money thing, the Prince thing. Another person that died last week was China, one of the top women WWE stars. And she'd been around for a while. Yeah, those people will be missed, but there's people, you know, following right behind them that are gonna, you know, there's another Prince somewhere waiting to come up and say, hey man, I think I want to change my name to a symbol. It might be me. I just haven't decided on the right symbol yet. There's something that I came across on Facebook, and it was 2 sentences that tell you a lot about the government and our culture and our media. The first one is, we are advised to not judge all Muslims by the actions of a few lunatics, but we are encouraged to judge all gun owners by the actions of a few lunatics. Yeah. If one guy shoots up a schoolyard, we scream that nobody should be able to own guns. If a Muslim blows up a building, we say you shouldn't blame it on the Muslims. There you go. You have to sit down and think about the hypocrisy behind most of the stuff that we do. A lot of people these days, I was reading a book, it was The Politically Incorrect Guide to American History. And one of the things that it pointed out, and this is going to make all you lefties mad at me, while you're screaming about the bloodthirsty, warmongering Republicans out there, during President Bill Clinton's term in office, he sent the military in action overseas 44 times in his tenure as Commander-in-Chief. He sent our military into, I won't say wars, but actions. 44 times in the 8 years that he was president. The United States, before Clinton, had only been sent into action overseas 8 times in the 45 years preceding Bill Clinton. We went from having a defensive military to having an offensive military. And we were everywhere, in every little backwater country around the world, sticking our nose in. In the name of humanity. And then we stayed around for what we call nation building. You know, maybe some of these third world countries were pretty happy before we came along and built them into nations. And no, I'm not saying that every country, you know, most of those countries were, again, poor, simple countries. A lot of them were run by dictators. Kind of the same way our country is. I mean, not necessarily a dictator, but it's a group of people that just tell us what to do, and you know, then the more fine they get into our personal lives, the more it becomes a dictatorship. You know? Or slavery. I got some time. Let me go into this. Because I you know, personally, I think this is funny. I really, you know, you can kind of compare what we've got now to slavery. It's just a different type of slavery. It's a slavery where they've got us all brainwashed into thinking that we're free, but we're not really free, are we? Every day you've got to get up, you've got to go to work. If you don't, you won't be able to live, or you'll be living on the street. Good slave owners always took very good care of their slaves. Let's not say good slave owners, because they probably wasn't any good slave owners. Let's say smart slave owners took extremely good care of their slaves. Why? Because they needed them healthy and productive. Today, the government wants all people to have health care. Why? Because the government wants us healthy and productive. It's better for the corporations. Yeah. See, these days, a slave owner isn't called massa, he's called CEO. Yeah. And the gang bosses aren't called gang bosses, They're called shift leaders and managers. Yep, exactly. If you were a slave, you got basic clothing, basic food, basic place to sleep. When you work these days, you get money, which most of us use the majority of for basic clothes, basic food, and a basic place to sleep. Oh yeah, and the government gets some of it. It doesn't make sense. If you think you're free, really look at things. You know? Can't just, nothing's free. This other sentence here that proves where we are in our minds in this country. It says, seems we constantly hear about how Social Security is going to run out of money. How come we never hear about welfare running out of money? What's interesting is the first group worked for their money and the second group doesn't. Yeah. And again, I've hammered the Social Security issue for a long time. Just the mathematics of it all don't work out. Again, you can't work someplace for 20 years paying into a system and then collect money for 40 years. Or 50 years, or 60 years. That's the problem with pension plans, too. Every year, business costs go up because businesses that offer pension plans are still paying people that retired 30 years ago. And 40 years ago, 50 years ago if they're still alive. That's one of the reasons I boot myself in the ass every single day. For not straightening up when I was a kid and being a good sailor and staying in the service for 20 years or 30 years. Because that government pension lasts forever. That's the thing. Give the government 20 years, you retire when you're 37 years old. If you're lucky, you're going to live till at least 77 or 87. That's 50 years of money coming from the government. And there's no way that you paid in that much in your 20-year tenure at that job. You know, high school math people, and not even Common Core. I can't even remember what the hell my math was called. It was back then, it was just called math. Wait, no, I think I came before they changed it to math. I think when I was in school, it was still arithmetic. No. When I was in grade school, it was still arithmetic. And then they changed it to math. And then they changed it to some other stuff, and now it's Common Core stuff. Sorry, had to get that in. What else has been happening in the news? Last week they were in Boston filming for a new movie called Patriots Day with Mark Wahlberg about the Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon went off without a hitch again this year. So that's a good thing. They shot some of the movie in some of the locations that were real. And on the day I'm filming this yesterday, they were starting to film the actual finish line bombing scenes, and they were not doing that in Boston. They were doing that at the South Weymouth Naval Air Station on an old runway out there. They built a whole soundstage out there and a set that resembles the finish line there at the marathon. So that's kind of cool. And they're slated to be done, I think, on Wednesday. So anyway, I don't know. I'm kind of running out of stuff. Because like I said, it's been busy. I haven't really felt like ranting about anything. So, there was big brush fires in Stoddard, New Hampshire this past week, set by a fireman. Apparently, a lot of arsons are set by firemen. I don't know. It's crazy. I guess it burned over 200 acres. And don't get me wrong, I don't believe this was like one of those, California wildfires where, there's nothing left except charred earth. I imagine this fire was basically, I think I saw a story, it said the flames got up to 12 feet high. Well, some of those old growth trees are 80, 90, 100, well, maybe not 100 feet tall, but a lot of big trees in the forest that probably didn't get burned. But what this fire does is it gets into that brush, all that stuff on the ground, the dried leaves, the sticks, the small deadfalls and all that stuff, whips through that fast and burns all of that undergrowth and undercover. On one hand, it's really good for the forest. It adds nutrients to the soil. It clears out, it clears out dead, unwanted stuff. But anyway, huge thing with 200 acres burned, set by a local firefighter. And, there should be harsh penalties for that. There should be harsh penalties for that. Let me go into, as we wind down here on time, go into some of our useless facts for the week and see if we can't give you something to talk about at work tomorrow morning. Did you know that if you go to church in Nebraska, it is against the law to burp or sneeze in a church in Nebraska? I don't know what the penalty is. But if it's against the law to do something in a church, pretty sure that infringes on some First Amendment stuff there that says the government doesn't get involved with church stuff unless it's a church law. And I don't think there's any place in the Bible says that you're not supposed to burp or sneeze. The word samba. Anybody ever danced to samba? The word samba means to rub navels together. Yeah. So if you've got two oranges and you rub them together, that's samba. The strongest muscle in the body? It's not the trigger finger or the fingers that hold the mightier than the sword pen. It's the tongue. Strongest muscle in the body. Here you go. You want to know how to tell the sex of a horse? No, that was kind of a loaded question, wasn't it? That was pretty easy. Without looking underneath. You can tell the sex of a horse by its teeth. Most male horses have 40 teeth and females have 36. An ostrich's eye is bigger than his brain. Here's one, and you can try it. If you've got a guitar tuner at home, one of those audio tuners that you play a note and it can hear the note, and flush your toilet. Most toilets flush in E flat. Wow. The longest recorded flight of a chicken. Didn't think a chicken could fly, could you? This is 13 seconds. So apparently they can't. Here you go. This must have been funny. In 1778, fashionable women of Paris never went out in blustery weather without a lightning rod attached to their hats. That's funny. February 1865 is the only month in recorded history not to have a full moon. Yeah. And I think we got time for a couple more here if it loads up. The average lead pencil, here you go. You want to know how many licks it takes to get to the end of a pencil? The average lead pencil will draw a line 35 miles long or write approximately 50,000 English words. Yeah. So that'll wrap up this week's show. And if you're watching on Facebook, share me with your friends. I'm kind of funny and I don't know. Sometimes exciting. But share me with your friends on Facebook. And if you watch on YouTube on YouTube, there's a button down there somewhere that says subscribe. Click that button and you'll get every episode I make. And I've been thinking about maybe some web exclusives also. So, till the next time I join you, I'm Rick Blood. This is Unfiltered. Peace.